Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, I am your host, Jim Fogarty, today of the podcast. I want to welcome you back. We just wrapped our 20th with a comedian, Mr. Shane Herman. We hope you got some laughs. We hope you got some info on where to get and go to some of his shows. Today we're shifting gears. We are sitting down today with a guest who has literally been changing the future of people's lives for the last 13 years. He is a former professional athlete. He is that's part of his story, but he also has overcome tremendous amount of adversity, physical and otherwise, to inspire the minds of young people here in Warren, Ohio. So super excited to get into this show. But of course, we got to do our bookkeeping, those that keep us going today. And our co-host today is a perfect person to kind of spitball some ideas off of when it comes to biohacking your body for future use, of making yourself the best you possibly can be. And so we were talking about biohacktomorrow.com, where there's some amazing products. And we were actually looking at a protein shake. Our co-host today is Mr. Zach Byler from Byler Elite Strength Training. And you know that we talk about Axio and some energy drinks and stuff like that. And we had Dr. Gene on, Dr. Gene DeLucia, talking about Nerf 1 and Nerf 2 activators. But we're looking, Zach is a strength trainer, as the name of his company says, Byler Elite Strength Training. You went right to the protein powder. And so I'm curious, I don't know if you were looking at the ingredients, because I know you went on the internet. What'd you think, man?
Yeah, I think the protein powder it's a high quality protein powder. I can get the sense that the company is really into a product that is trying to go above and beyond what you would find at your typical GNC store. I can see that it's a low sugar, low sweetener. They're really trying to kind of go this health route that I don't want to say is alternative, but it's really kind of, it's the route that they're going is really the route that nutrition as a industry is kind of taking right now as a whole. So I think they're on the cutting edge, it seems. I think they've got some high quality products. I noticed the one thing that I always look for is how much protein is in the supplement. And it's definitely not your mass gainer. 30
grams of protein.
Yeah, more serving. like I'm thinking like 50 grams. It's not a bulk. It's not a bulking agent. It's a supplement.
Yep.
It is there to not be your main source of protein intake. It's going to be there to supplement a good, healthy diet when somebody needs it. And I can tell that that's kind of what their target is there.
Yeah. Yeah. I started, so for everybody that's a new listener, we talk about biohacking, and biohacktomorrow.com is our first sponsor, and they do, put together different supplements and activators and whatnot. And if you go to that website, you'll go right onto a page and learn about biohacking, and you'll also learn about some of these body fuelers, if you will. And we were talking earlier about the protein powder that they have. And I'm not going to say the name of it. If you just go to biohacktomorrow.com, you can search it. But it's a whey protein. And so I am lactose intolerant, and I have a digestive illness, as I've said on other shows. But if you're new, here's some new information. So if you have that stuff, so a lot of times you eat whey protein, they make you real gassy, and they make you feel bloated. You're like, your bowels feel like distended almost. I mean, it's just not a comfortable feeling. I tried this stuff because I wanted to try everything that they had to offer, other than the pet supplements. I'm not going to eat the bacon flavored pet supplements. Okay, although I did try them on some dogs, and they seemed like they had some. We didn't do it a long term, but I want to try it on myself. Okay, I'm the guinea pig. So I take this stuff, and I'm thinking it's going to be like every other whey protein I've ever eaten before, where I'm like farting, or I got to go to the toilet a bunch of times, or I just don't feel good. And I take it, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And I take it again. I thought, well, maybe it's because I just used I think the first time I used it, I think I mixed it with like a pea and a whey, not whey, a pea and a rice milk, because I don't drink milk, but I still like to either, or a coconut milk or something like that. So I thought, well, maybe because it was a counterbalance. So then I took it with something else. I mixed bananas with it. I made it like a shake. I did it with water. I did it with, I had some before I came. Now I'm actually drinking some other stuff that I'm trying out too. That's not on the website. But this is more of like a gainer. It's 11 ounces, got 25 grams of protein in it. And this actually is pretty good too. It's a non-dairy protein shake, but the stuff that's on biohacktomorrow.com is super cool because, like what Zach had said, they're trying to make a supplement that is healthy, that has branched chain amino acids in it, and that's not, it's low glycemic. It's not going to jack you up with a lot of caffeine or taurine or things of that nature. And same with their energy drink. So I know you're not familiar with it, except other than today. If you get a chance, are you drinking Axio?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice job, dude. Excellent. Yes, I put some Axio out and you're sampling it. Let us know if you feel anything while you're sitting there. If you start to get super focused in.
If I start interrupting you guys like incessantly, then you'll know it's working.
Actually, it's the reverse. You feel like a calm, streamlined energy.
Okay.
It's not like Red Bull or stuff where you're just like it's gonna motor mouth you. I always call it like getting dialed in. You drink it and you feel like you can kind of, oh man, it's nice. Anyways, biohacktomorrow.com. I feel like we spent like way too much time talking about that, but we did talk about Byler Elite Strength Training, who is our second sponsor today because of our guest today. And again, I want to thank Zach for coming to sit in with us today and subbing out Brandon Giovanni from MDI Studios. This will be an interesting thing. Zach is considering, I hope we put a good experience together for him, is considering starting a podcast. And so I invited him up and I said, hey, you know what? Brandon wasn't able to make it today. Byler Elite Strength Training. Tell us what you do, sir.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on the podcast.
You're welcome.
It's super exciting so far. And at Byler Elite Strength Training, our philosophy there is definitely efficiency for our clients and our athletes. It's movement variability over rigidity. And we try to get all of the outcomes that we want to get in the most low risk types of exercise modalities that we can use. So that's basically our philosophy in a nutshell. Outside of that, we serve high school athletes in the area. We serve their parents. So we've got the fat loss, the healthy aging group, but also really trying to help people get faster, stronger, more powerful.
Yeah, you're a former high school and college baseball player. You're currently the head coach at Howland High School.
Indeed. Congratulations.
This will be your second season? You're going into your second season?
Going into the second season.
Yeah.
The first season was awesome. It was such a joy to be back in the game. It's been, since college that I was actually in the game because I started my business in 2012 immediately when I got done with college, and you just don't have time to be playing around with sports anymore when you're trying to grow something, or at least I didn't.
And you're a new dad, and newly married, so you got all these things that are going on in your life, sure.
Yeah, life's been zooming by, but it's been great. Like I've taken note of every step of the way.
Well, so I'll talk to you after the show, this is the first time Zach and I have seen each other for a while. Like I said, did I say? Zach is married to my cousin. That's how we know each other, just because I like to put it all out there. Mm-hmm. Zach is married to my cousin, and I've watched him mature as a man. I still sound like really, I don't want to sound like corny, but
no, that's cool.
Watched you mature as a man and as a human being, and I'm going to give you some inside stuff afterwards. I've actually heard some complimentary stuff about your coaching style. In anything, there's a learning curve, right? You start things, and it's like, I coached for a few years, and my coaching style from year one was more like aggressive, and that's what I was brought in to do, kind of. I was offsetting, and as it went, I got a little bit more analytical and a little bit more understood the parents better and understood the dynamics of things. So a lot of good kudos. I'll tell you about it after the show, but I know you're doing a great job over there. So whatever you're doing, keep it up, because I heard some comments about your style. You had said something that interests me, though. I just want to go real quick back to Byler Elite Strength Training, and so that the viewers don't misinterpret, those who are local. Are you a CrossFit gym?
No, we are not a CrossFit gym.
Okay.
I get that question a lot, though.
Yes. And so, and the reason I ask this is, and we talked about this a little bit before the show too, when people in the Western world, in the United States, feel like they feel like they have to train super hard and like sweat it out, gut it out, man, every time. And I like that you said, you used the term modality, like how you said you do these exercises to minimize the risk rather than like gut it through, man, max it out every single time. And so your gym actually serves not just, you are serving specific athlete types or athletics because of you, and you obviously you're a baseball player, but you played other things. You're a soccer player. So you're coaching specific strength trainings for those athletes at varying levels, but you also have a clientele that's like senior citizens and young kids and stuff like that. I think that's really interesting, man.
Yeah. Earlier, before we got on, before we went live here, I made the comment that I think that every single human being is an athlete, and that's part of the mindset that I come in with every person that comes through my door, whether it's the 83-year-old client that I have or it's the 10-year-old client that I have. Those people are going to fall on a spectrum. So there's only certain movements that that the human being can do, and the 83-year-old woman can do it, and the 10-year-old little boy can do it. It just depends on how well they can do it, how efficient they are at it, how much we want to load them, is there injuries, things like that. That, you know, everybody can push, everybody can pull, everybody can bend at the hips, everybody should be able to squat, and everybody has some form of locomotion. And what it's about is figuring out how well they can do each of those and then modifying their exercise selection to suit them.
So I've said this before. I'm going to say it live because it'll help me lock it in so people hear it. So later on, someone will go like, "Hey, dude, did you ever go over there and work out at Dude's gym?" Like, and we've talked in the past. I need to bulk up a little bit because I'm kind of a smaller guy, especially next to you big behemoths. I think I'm be excited to learn from you maybe some of the things that I'm doing right or doing wrong and how I can modify the things. I'm kind of a loner gym guy. I work out in my house. I have a machine. I'll do sit-ups or push-ups or, pull-ups, or obviously I do jiu-jitsu. We've talked about that in the past as well, but I'm not a gym. I don't work out with like other people, go to the gym and stuff, because sometimes they're like too much of a water cooler thing than it is a gym. People are prancing. I like to get sweated out and do it and be done. I'm interested. I'm sitting down with Zach Byler from Byler Elite Strength Training, and I'm going to go there sometime in the near future before my 44th birthday, which is in a couple months. I want to learn from you. And if you are in the greater Warren, Youngstown area, if you're listening to the podcast and you're local, Zach Byler from Byler Elite Strength Training is on Ridge Road. No, I'm sorry. North River Road. Why did I say Ridge? North River Road in Howland. What's your website? Give us some contact info just so we have it before we... The
website is bylerelitestrength.com. And you guys can... all the contact information is on there. That's kind of the central hub. So bylerelitestrength.com.
Sweet, man. I'm going to get there before my 44th. I want to gain like 7 or 8 pounds.
Well, you got to say it out loud, and you got to say it in a public sphere for the motivation.
Get to shine the light on yourself. Here I am. Hey, we are going to shine the light on my special guest today, who I told, and I say this too, he's been on my list since when I started to talk about this concept. He's been on my list from the beginning. He's another young guy that I've watched. I always feel like it sounds corny when you say it out loud. Like, I don't want it to sound like... I've watched you grow up, and what an amazing human being. It's humbling, like, to think that I've known you since I think you were 15 or 16 years old.
Yep.
And you are now 37?
38.
Our next guest is a former Warren G. Harding, Penn State, and Indianapolis Colt, eventually pro athlete, former football standout, track standout as well, in high school, who had dreams of playing in the NFL. and I actually remember having this conversation with you. We worked together at the Trumbull Board of Elections, and I can remember you saying at some point, I don't remember when it was, but you always were community minded. You always felt like a desire to give back and learn things so that you're able to share. And you've always been like a super, super humble guy. And so it only made sense when the stuff didn't work out with, the NFL and professional athlete, that you started to inspire minds with your organization, Inspiring Minds. Deryck Toles, Executive Director of Inspiring Minds. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
That's such a long build-up, man. Now that it's over with, I can't wait to dive in. I'm eager. We're in Warren. We've got some listeners from other places. I want you to share it. I'd share it too, but it's always better to hear it from the person. You're 17 years old. You're a senior in high school.
Yep.
You are... Now, I'm trying to put the framework around it because there's been so much great athleticism, especially on the football field.
Right.
I probably saw all of your, or if not all, most of your home games at Mollenkoff Stadium. When I say you were a phenom as a running back at Warren G. Harding. And then you go to Penn State, to the Nittany Lions, your first year, and you had dreams of being pro, I think.
Right.
Like probably pretty early on.
Right.
When was that shine? When did your athleticism first start to shine?
Probably, I would say ninth grade, middle school.
Okay.
Like eighth grade, ninth grade. That's when I really fell in love with it, I think. And I think when I got to the eighth grade, I had a situation, and I remember that night is the night I truly fell in love with football. And I decided that the way I was going to get out of the situation that I was in was through going through the NFL and just realizing that was such a huge goal, and everything in my life had to line up with that. So that's when I began to focus and really began to put it out there and really set my mind, to what I wanted to do with my life.
Now, tell us a little bit about your background, because
Yeah, so, I grew up, both my parents, unfortunately, were on drugs. I by the time I was in the fourth grade, helping taking care of my siblings, I grew up super insecure, angry at the world, not thinking anybody knew what I was going through, had horrible communication skills, and did not know how to digest the things that I was experiencing. And, crazy situation happened at home. I ended up with my grandmother. And that's how I ended up, here in Warren.
So your grandmother is Judy Toles.
Yep.
She is a staple on the local political scene.
Big time.
Yeah.
She loves politics to this day.
She is a pistol, and she is really one of the most warm-hearted, honest, and inspiring people. I met Judy when I was 4, maybe. It was maybe the first time. My grandfather, this is how I met Deryck. This is how Deryck and I met. My grandfather and Judy worked together at the Trumbull County Board of Elections.
Yep.
And they would hire, young, strong guys, or those willing to, or old, strong guys who could load voting machines in and out of the trunks of cars during, before the setup of the elections, and the night after the election, they'd bring the machines back, and we'd be unloading cars and yada, yada. And so I met Judy by visiting my grandfather at the Board of Elections where he worked as a kid. And then when I got to be like 14 or 15, which is probably, I think, when you started too, or there's a couple years age difference between us.
Yeah.
We'd go and unload these voting machines. Yeah. And Judy is such a great person. And she will tell you the truth. Like, she gives it to you like right down the middle.
Straight.
In a heartfelt manner, though. Not like she's nothing to prove. I mean, but she gives it to you straight. What was that experience like? You go from a really troubled situation now to Judy, who's very structured and very, like, how was that?
It was different. You know what I mean? Our biggest fights were where you at and who you with. You know, I didn't understand that because when I was in Columbus, I went and came as I pleased. You know, I was out at night. I was with whoever I wanted to be with. As a young person, you don't know, and the reality was I wasn't used to people caring. You know, and she cared about me and my safety and where I was. So those were really our biggest fights. So it was different for me. She went to church all the time. I wasn't with church. You know what I mean? So it was a different lifestyle. But at the same time, what I loved about it was I wasn't worried about, you know, okay, where's your next meal coming from? And I wasn't worried about just some of the things I had to see and hear and experience. So it was great to be able to get out of that situation.
She took care of you, man. She's got mad love to give, man.
Yeah.
Judy's the best. Judy's the best. So Deryck and I met, and I met you right. You had just probably 2 years prior to had just started playing football, but you were just starting to kind of make a name for yourself. So, you know, we live in this area. Anybody that lives here knows it, but we live in an area where sports is king, football specifically is king, and it's Friday night lights. I mean, we're not here in Texas, but we're in Northeast Ohio, and if you played football and you're good, man, you are elevated to the on the pedestal. You're put up, and a lot of attention is shined on that.
True.
And that's an early age for people to be like strangers, grown men, grown women, like,
right.
You know, you're awesome, or, you know, whatever it is, kind of like wanting your opinion on things. I mean, your name was in the newspaper probably every Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Because you were, you know, so your junior and senior year, but your senior year specifically, you had a standout stellar season, running the rock. Yeah. Deryck was a running back for Warren G. Harding. What was your record that year? Did you guys go to the
10-2?
10-2.
Yeah.
And you didn't go to, did you go to state that year?
We didn't even go to the playoffs then.
Oh, that's right. That was the year. That's right. There was a couple years there where this was after the schools merged at one point, and the 91 football team, it was Warren Western Reserve. It was the kids from the west side of Warren, the kids from the east side of Warren got together, and they went down to Columbus and just dominated.
They whooped everybody.
And there was a couple years. What year did you graduate? 97?
I came out 99.
99, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a couple down years, and then my class, we brought it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we had 2 good years. I think we went 5 when we were, before we got to high school, they had went 5-5 a few times.
Yeah.
And then my junior year, we went 7-3. And then my senior year, we went 10-2. So, and when the two people we lost to were actually the state champions. So not bad company to, you know. I mean, if you're going to go out, it's better to go out to a champ than it is to, than a chump. Yeah.
You get a scholarship to Penn State, go there, and you're on top of the world, man. And you've always been a super humble guy. Your work ethic was evident from the very first time I saw you. I think we worked on the same crew, unloading cars and just chatting, man. And, you know, getting to, I didn't go to Harding. I was a little bit older than Deryck. And so we're different people, obviously different kids, but, you were always an easy guy to talk to. And I knew that you were Judy's grandson, and I love Judy. And so obviously I want to take an interest, you know, and my grandfather was like, oh, that's Judy's grandson. You know, take an interest in him. He's a good kid, you know, that kind of stuff. And so followed your career. You go to Penn State and Big Ten school, big time scholarship. And you're an academic guy too. You're not just an athlete. I mean, you're very in tune. You're very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
So, and I remember you saying, I'm gonna go, but I want to get a degree too. I mean, I'm going to the NFL, but I need to tune my mind as well.
Facts.
You can tell the story, you're in training camp, but essentially you end up having symptoms where you are basically passing blood. You're in team blood, and realize that something's wrong, and you're in the prime of your life.
Yep, and they tell me I can't play football anymore. It's my freshman year in college. So to go through everything I went through growing up, and then to show up and finally reach, a goal of mine, and then they try to snatch it from you. So that was hard. I went into some deep depression, you know, at that point in time. So
I could imagine.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah,
it was tough, man. But I didn't give up. I probably went to about 4 or 5 different specialists. They all told me, no, you can't play anymore. We're nervous about what this is going to do to your organs. We don't want you to die. So I sat out for a little bit. And I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't know. I actually went in at the time. The head coach was Joe Paterno, and he brought me in and he said, you know what? I've been hearing from the doctors what's been going on. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, when I came to meet with you, and I came to Warren and I met with your grandmother, he said, I never told her you were going to be a great NFL player, but I did tell her that you would get a great education from Penn State. So if you can't play anymore, we're going to keep you on scholarship and we're going to make sure you graduate and do something with yourself. So, just know that, he had my back, the school had my back, the team had my back, helped me really push through that situation. And
just so those that don't know, that Deryck has a kind of a rare enzyme disorder. I don't even know if they've really.
Different people have called it different things, man. Rippling muscle disease, and basically what happens is my body eats itself up. You use fats and sugars for energy. My body bypasses one of them. They still don't know which one it is, and goes straight to protein, which is my muscle. It's not good, man. So I suffer from a lot of cramping. I've suffered from lesions in my skin. My skin breaks real easy. The cramping is from eyelid down to toes at times, dehydration, you name it. So
you would never know by looking at. I remember at one point you came home and you did look thinner, because I can remember in high school you were working out, and obviously you want to go play big time ball.
Absolutely.
And so at one point I remember, he looks a little thinner. This was right after I think the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But looking at you now at 38 years old, dude, you look like you could still go out there and,
I wish.
Knock it around a little bit. Like you're in great shape. So sometimes looks are deceiving. You can never tell,
so. You don't know what people are going through.
You don't know what people are going through,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and the reality is we all going through something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all of us got something going on. And I think that with time, with maturity, you figure those things out. Our bodies are all different and react different. In different situations. And the reality is I put my body through a lot of crap. I beat my body up, but at the same time, I was also putting things in my body that I didn't know weren't good for me. And not talking about like steroids or anything like that, but there were things I would eat in my diet, just things you just didn't know. And I think as you grow older and you learn those things, you learn how to better fine tune, your instrument.
Yeah. Well, in spite of the fact that you were diagnosed with this enzyme thing, you continued to play.
I did. They I met a specialist, and the specialist told me, you know what, I'm going to limit you. He said, you do have this issue, but I think we can figure it out. The average game is about 100 plays on each side of the ball. And he said, we're going to start you out with about 10 to 15 plays a game. And they also limited my practice. I only could practice a fourth of the time. My workouts were cut in half. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, if I'm going to die doing what I love. I didn't get all the way here for nothing. Like, football saved my life. So if I'm going to go out, I'm cool. I'm going to go out this way. So I signed off on it and kept it rocking.
And you went from being a running back to being a defensive back and a linebacker.
And then a linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not like, for those of you who don't know Deryck, and I'm not knocking a punter or any, like, this is a high impact.
Absolutely.
You need to be jacked, especially at that level.
You do.
You're playing Ohio State, you're playing Wisconsin, you're playing, obviously, people.
You do. You got to be jacked, and you got to have a couple screws loose at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And I think that's the part that helped me get through that situation.
But, bro, here's the thing, man. You never have ever come across as someone, now I know on the field, you turn it up.
Absolutely.
But like some guys, like, you're like, that guy's got some screws loose. Like, you've always presented as a compassionate, together, like.
Yeah. I think for me,
is it compartmentalized for you?
One, I'm great at compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's not too much you're going to put in front of me that's going to be tougher than what I've already been through.
Yeah, nice.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So at the end of the day, I done been in some pretty tough and real situations. So for someone to say I don't like you or to say I got a problem with you, like, I laugh at that stuff.
Yeah.
The things I go through in life now, it's like, you serious? You know what I mean? So, And when I think about even physically, the same thing, like, because I've been blessed, to play against some of the greatest athletes in the world, somebody challenging me physically, it doesn't even entertain me, you know what I mean? Because I done had to knock out 7 foot, 350 pound cats, you know what I mean? So somebody coming to me talking about this or trying to challenge me, it don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
So I've done all that stuff, so.
But even as a young guy, you were always very composed. Like you were,
but again, it happened to me early.
Yeah.
You gotta, you know what I mean? Like when you really dig down deep, the things I was experiencing at such a young age.
When you were in Columbus. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is pre-Warren, Ohio.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even some of the things I went through here, like I had went through so much growing up that forced me to grow up early.
Yeah.
It forced me to gain responsibility. It forced me to gain perspective. You know what I mean? So trust me, there was an angry little kid. I run summer programs now. Ask the people who used to run our summer programs that I went to and ask them about the kid that used to pick out the counselor to fight every day, But also ask the kids who used to stand up for him when a bully, used to pick on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ask the people who I used to, when I first started hustling, like, ask the people when I was selling annihilators and gum, you know what I'm saying? When I was going around hustling shoes and cutting grass, like, so I learned, from business to the streets to education, like, I've taken building relationships with people, learning how to communicate, pushing myself, like, because of those life experiences is why you saw what you saw.
Eventually, you continue to push through and you go to the Indianapolis Colts after Penn State. So you're faced with this thing as a freshman.
Yeah.
You persevere and you get to the league, the ultimate goal.
Right.
Tell us about it, man. What was that like? What was the...
I'm gonna paint a picture for you. Okay. So it's a Sunday night in December. And it's probably about 8 o'clock, 8:05. It's cold. The snow is coming down, lightly though. You're in Gillette Stadium. The lights is on. The crowd is screaming. And when I finally realize where I'm at, I look on the field and I see Tom Brady. And I look to the right of me, and I see Peyton Manning. And it was at that moment where I was like, wow, like, I made it, And I think that, for me, I wish everybody could chase that moment, I think that so many of us, we chase fame, we chase money, cars. I think we chase all the wrong things. I feel like we should chase moments. I heard both of you talk about how you were parents, right? You've chased that moment, right? To when your kid says their first word or when your kid graduates, you're married, right? You both probably, I'm sure you love your wives. Like, you chase that moment when you realize, like, your wife appreciates you. You know what I mean? Like, those are the moments you chase,
You keep chasing that moment,
You should. You chase the moment when your parents is proud of you, right? Like,
100%.
That's what you're chasing. So for me, it was about the moment. It was never about being a celebrity. It was never about making a whole lot of money. It was just, I had been through so much, and there were so many people who told me I couldn't do it. You go end up like your daddy. You ain't gonna be nothing. You ain't allowed around my kid. I had so many people telling, like, this is the kid who was ineligible. By the time I was in 8th grade, I had all F's and D's on my report card, but graduated with a 3.98 GPA coming out of high school, you know what I mean? And had college offers from every college in the country. So just to be in that moment after all of that, after being told my freshman year, you'll never play football again, it was that moment, that meant so much to me.
That's unbelievable, man. Like, that's a, as you're saying it, I feel like you took a panoramic Polaroid of that, and you have that, and you feel it. You still feel it.
Absolutely.
You can still feel it.
Yep. I use that same emotion and perspective in everything that I do. It's those moments, you know what I mean? It's interacting with people and giving them that moment of somebody cares about you, because I know what it feels like not to be cared about. You know, it's working with young people and being able to say, look, let me show you this crystal ball. Let me show you the second business you're going to start, the house you're going to build, the family you're going to have. Because for me, it was a huge box full of letters from every college in the country that was my crystal ball. And that was the first time in my life I actually felt like I was worth something. And it was because I was finally able to see past the situation that was in front of me. So everybody needs those moments, you know? And so I carry that with me. Yeah, I keep that in my toolbox.
Eventually, you're out of the NFL.
Yep.
Through some injuries.
Yep, got hurt my second year. So when they say not for long, not for long. Yep, and I didn't make $100 million like everybody everybody that plays.
Oh, you're in the league. Right.
Yeah, it ain't like that.
So here's what's interesting, though, is that you're a kid that got himself out of hard situations.
Absolutely.
You've now toured the country multiple times.
Absolutely.
You know, through the education at Penn State and
Absolutely.
your football. You've toured the country multiple times now with the Indianapolis Colts.
Absolutely.
You've been exposed to so much. And, you know, I'm sure, obviously, right, you didn't make millions or whatever, but you had a couple years, you made some nice.
Absolutely.
You had
Great
other
start.
opportunities. You had a great start.
Yeah.
What happened to you coming back to Warren, Ohio, to your roots? You could have been in Florida. A lot of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Why come back here?
Because when I was traveling and I was in all these other cities, you know, I lived in Atlanta for a while, Cleveland, and but like you said, traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast and even out of the country, my eyes were open to the opportunities that people had. And I remember saying, like, man, I wish I could have had that growing up. Why don't we have something like that at home? Why aren't, you know, I'm on a plane going out the country and there's little kids running around. And I said, man, what if that was me growing up? How my perspective and my whole, like, thoughts on life would have been different. You know, I remember seeing all the different opportunities that were out there, man, that the average person just doesn't get a chance to see. And what it made me realize was we all need the same thing. It's just we don't all get it. So if I could use my platform, I walked in stadiums where there was 120,000 people screaming our name and wanting our autograph after the game. So they're standing up and screaming. And I said, you know what? Where's the one person that stands up for a young person who don't have anybody when they get their first A on their report card, or when they get perfect attendance, or when they behave aggressively and then they get in a situation and they finally pause and make the right decision? Where's the one person that stands up for them? So if I can get all these people to stand up and jump and act like I'm special just because I can hit people and run a football, why not use that platform? Because I'm part of the 0.001%. And if I can use my platform, I want to help the other 99% who don't have, you know, the things that I've been afforded, all because of a sport.
So you move back to Warren, to what has become your roots.
Yeah.
And you slowly start to get involved in the, well, you don't slowly start to get involved. You get involved pretty immediately in the community.
In it.
Yeah.
I jumped in it heavy.
But you slowly start to evolve this idea into the nonprofit Inspiring Minds, which add to it, I'll say, Deryck started an organization, got the community rallied around with the idea of exactly what he says. He wanted to take kids who didn't have the opportunity to go to a play or see a business or see and to understand too that it's sometimes not just the fame of the superstar, whether they be an athlete or an entertainer or a CEO or whatever, but also, hey, there's a person that does, you know, you may not be the person in front of the microphone with the lights shining on them, but you may be a part of that person's planning of that event or the tech group or
Absolutely.
the this or that. And so a lot of kids don't know, if they haven't been exposed to it,
Right.
that even is out there for them to strive for. They see, I'm going to go work I'm not knocking the mill or any of that stuff, but I'm going to go work at the mill, or I'm going to go work at convenient, or I'm going to go do whatever they're surrounded by. That's what they think is they're going to be their life.
Absolutely.
So you took these kids, you took a group of kids who were underserved
100%.
and started to expose them with trips, taking them to different places and meeting different people, and then setting up, eventually they're setting up like internships and things of that nature.
Everything.
And Inspiring Minds is now in its 13th year.
Yep.
And I was on your website earlier today. You have served over 2,500 kids.
Yeah.
And that's probably just like what you're counting.
Yeah.
You don't know probably like indirectly
100%.
how many people like that's affected.
100%.
So you took something that was a tragedy kind of in your own, you didn't make it a tragedy, but you took something that was a tragedy in your own life.
Yep.
And used that perseverance to instill into these kids in Inspiring Minds by making them aware or exposing them to things that they necessarily wouldn't see.
Absolutely. I mean, you only can aspire to be what you've been exposed to. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And, I think so often when we was growing up, and I'm sure you've all heard it too, like, you should be an astronaut, and it's like, all right, do any of you still know what it takes to be an astronaut? Like, if you don't know one, if you've never seen it, like, what do you do? How do I get there? Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
So I think all these dreams and aspirations that we've been sold, yet not truly feeling like you truly had the opportunity to be that. So it really was all lip service. So how about I show you what's really going on, so that you can see that there is so much opportunity out there, and then find out what it is that you can connect to, that you might be passionate about. So the person that does have the light on them, I'm going to show you the person that helped make that person. Yeah, you look at LeBron, and LeBron makes $100 million a year, but guess what? Somebody pays his salary. Why don't you want to be that person? And not only his salary, everybody else's salary on the team has built this huge stadium. Those are the people who we don't see. So it was just showing like really how this world works and how our young people can fit in it.
How did you start it?
Started out honestly with 4 kids. I used to meet at McDonald's, not too far from this office. And I met with a group of kids, man, that just knew me from where I was from. We used to meet for about an hour once a month. Then all of a sudden, they started asking if they can bring their siblings and their friends with them. It then went to 2 hours a month. So I would tell them bring their homework for the first hour, and then the second hour we would just talk about life. One day, one of the kids said, yo, D, I want to go to college. Can you help me? And that's when I knew we had something. 13 years later, the ones 4 kids, we're working with 400 a year here locally. And we also have 4 chapters all across the country. So we opened up in Youngstown, Ohio, about 5 years ago now. We opened up in Philadelphia 2 years ago, and now in Brooklyn, New York, probably this last spring. So, and I'm actually in the process of working with a HBCU in Atlanta to open a boarding school for Black boys. So the goal is to actually have chapters all across the country that, again, provides these same opportunities. What I'm most proud about is so far all of our kids have come through our high school program, have graduated from college. Or graduated from high school.
100%.
Yeah, have graduated from high school. And they either go into college or they go into the workforce or they go into the military. So that's the one thing I'm proud about because it's not easy. We always have a couple that are really struggling on the edge every year, but our team is so passionate about the work and passionate about our community and our kids that we help push them, to get to the next level, whatever it is they choose.
We talked about this in another episode, and I don't remember what it is, but it strikes me today, maybe more than ever, what you're providing. Because, people are saying, I always I was going to say, hey, describe for us, for our listeners, like what it is you're doing for these kids.
Right.
But I don't know if I need to do that now because I'm finding this, it's the common thread. It's the common thread in life too, really, I think, is you're allowing these kids to choose their own purpose. Mm-hmm. And that is so rewarding and so empowering.
100%.
They feel, I think I don't want to undersell it, but I don't want it to sound like it's so grandiose, but it really is.
Yeah.
You are a person who is changing the outcome in a positive way for the future of other human beings.
100%. That's what it's about.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no better purpose to have in life.
Absolutely.
Than to say, I left this place and these people better than when I found it.
Absolutely.
And not only because I did a little bit, like you're actively and integratively changing people and molding them and allowing them to change themselves and mold them through the exposure. What was the first exposure trip?
The first one.
And I know it's more than that too. I wanted to start with that because I know you're doing this stuff now.
The first one was to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We went to Milwaukee. The kids got a chance to meet Usher, and they got a chance to go to a new city. They got on their first plane. It was neat. They learned about business and business in different facets. So that was the very first exposure trip that we took.
What was because it was like partnered up with Usher's group too.
Yeah, Usher's New Look.
The New Look group. Yep, I remember that.
Yep. So we went down there and he was doing workshops. And they talked about entrepreneurship, and they talked about marketing and PR and management, like all of that. They talked about how to introduce yourself and how to hold a meeting and present yourself and networking. Like, it was awesome.
Things they don't really teach you in college.
Exactly.
It's kind of like some of the same conversations I have with teachers sometimes, or with just educators in general, where, I look at myself. I'm running this business. I had to, Zach, same way. Zach, did you take business classes? Did you have business classes?
No, no. It's
me neither.
Just learning on the fly.
And I think I remember tax for dummies.
Absolutely.
Hey, remember? I think we talked about hey man, here's how you do your
figure all that out. Same thing with our business. I learned by bumping my head.
Right.
And had to figure everything out, right? So the marketing of it, the PR of it, the design of this, right?
Yeah.
Taxes, employee taxes, all that stuff.
Even in schools, simple things like balancing a checkbook or hey, you have to pay a mortgage. You have to there should be a basic. I know they used to have shop classes, and we've and people go, the dummies take the shop class. This was the belief back then. Dummies take the shop classes.
Right.
They should have a basic life skill. They get away from this in education sometimes, but basic life skill classes.
Yeah.
Even with home ec.
Yeah.
I was raised by a single mom. She worked a lot, and so fortunately, like you, I had amazing grandparents that took care of me and fed me and stuff like that. But there were times where I'd feed myself.
Absolutely.
Thank God I had my grandparents taught me how to cook, my mom, but had a home ec class.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make a pizza. I can do this. I can, home economics. I cook some stuff up for myself while I'm watching myself at 13.
I think the biggest thing is that we haven't been able to catch up just to where our society is. So I think that there was a huge shift from when the average family was, a 2-parent home and dad worked and mom didn't. But then they made the shift to where when we started growing up is when the single parents started coming, and women finally got the rights that they deserve and was I'm not taking the crap anymore. And they began divorcing, and they were finally able to get equitable pay. So they were able to go and start working and doing the jobs and taking care of their kids. So I don't think it ever caught up and then what happened when you think about the educational system, because that happened, and now mom is now working 2 and 3 jobs sometimes, more began to fall on our education system. So now you have to teach them how to cook because mom ain't home to teach them how to cook.
Right.
Now you have to teach them how, and we haven't been able to catch up because there's not even enough dollars there, to give them the capacity.
Yeah.
For them to take on all the things that need to be taken on at the school, And I see it in my work every day. We're asking the education system to do a lot.
Well,
we used to know how to read before we got to school.
Right.
Now we're expecting the school to teach our kids how to read.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, I think it's great that you have opened up a physical location for Inspiring Minds. It's down on it's on Woodland.
Yeah,
Is
on
the
Woodland.
address Woodland? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Woodland.
And you're right behind Warren Harding High School.
Yep. That can throw a rock and hit it.
Yeah. And that's a great, I mean, obviously you purposely picked that location because of the closeness to the school. And it's almost like, I was reading an article and prep for this, and Steve Charo was talking about like how it almost seems like there's an integrated partnership.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. What I love about it is that our kids can be at school all day and they can look out the window and they can look at something they're proud of, you know, and they can look at something that brings them joy, you know, through all the stuff that they go through every day. So I'm super proud of it, and I love the relationship we also have. Steve Shiro, the Warren City Schools, and the city of Warren, I mean, they've really embraced us to help us make this mission come to life.
Biggest success story?
Oh, wow.
You know, I know that's like a real heavy, like, or just the one that comes to your mind first.
Oh my goodness.
The moment, like similar when you were on the football field in Inspiring Minds, what's been the...
Yeah. So, you know, we had a young lady who came into our program when we first started. She unfortunately had just lost her father to violence. And so was going through a lot, you know, emotionally. Mom was still there, and but I remember just some of the struggles, you know, and how scared Mom was, you know, because it's like, now I'm doing this by myself, you know. The young lady wanted to be an engineer, but she wanted to go to an HBCU and leave the area. And Mom was...
What is that for listeners?
HBCU is a historically black college and university. And it was down south in Alabama. And Mom scared to death, you know, because she didn't want her to go away.
Didn't want to leave the nest.
Her first baby, you know what I mean? And I remember Mom cussing me out and jumping on me, you know, because she didn't want her baby to leave. And I'm telling her baby, like, get out of here. Like, go do your thing. Go live, you know.
Just spread your wings.
That's it. Yeah, and do something and then give back, you know what I mean, in some way, shape, or form. So she left. I remember before graduation, she called me in the middle of the night at 2:00. And for those of you who got kids, you know what them late night phone calls normally aren't good, you know. And I remember her calling me in the middle of the night, and she said, I got a big decision to make. And I'm like, what decision you got to make in the middle of the night? Don't do it, you know. And she said, I have a decision to make. I've been offered a job by NASA and by the Department of Defense. What should I do? And instantly broke out in tears just thinking about where that young lady came from. She ended up taking the job at the Department of Defense, and she interned at NASA while she was in college. Took the job at the Department of Defense, and went there and worked there for years. Just recently, I ended up going to her graduation in Alabama. This past year, she graduated with her master's degree, and called me again a few months ago with the same thing. I gotta talk to you. And she had like 6 different job offers from all the top engineering firms in the country. And a lot of them are global. And so she literally has just moved to Dallas a few weeks ago, is working there and looking at actually moving out of the country here soon. So, I'm super proud of her. And she was part of our first crew.
I think I remember. Yeah, I know.
Yep, you interviewed her.
Yep.
Little
petite, little.
Yep. She's an amazing, super smart young lady, and is a perfect example of how sometimes your environment can swallow you up if you allow it to, but why we all need a tribe around us to support us, you know, through things physically, emotionally, spiritually, you know, and with that level of support, you know, you can go out and do whatever it is you want to do.
Kudos to the mom, too.
Mom is dope.
Yeah. Who eventually, right, probably, I don't know the ins and outs of it, you know, had to nudge her out of the net. That's a hard thing to do.
It is.
You know.
Yeah. It's tough for the parents as well. because
Sure.
a lot of our parents,
You want to
they're-
hold on to them. You're
their kids are
fearful.
all they got,
Yeah,
They know how crazy the world is, so I understand. So mom jumped on me again when she told me she was going to Dallas. What you mean she moved? 'Cause she was living in Maryland, but I'm super proud of her. And I'm super proud that, our team, our volunteers, our staff, and every supporter, everybody who's given us 5 minutes or $5 helped make that happen, So that's definitely a proud moment, I could think of in the organization.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yep.
You're doing amazing work, inspiring minds. Give us the website so our listeners can check it out.
It's imyouth.org. Very simple. So IM stands for Inspiring Minds. So imyouth.org. And you can go there and check us out. We also are on Instagram. We're on Facebook as Inspiring Minds Youth. You can check all our chapters out, Inspiring Minds.
Can you
Youngstown,
contribute
all of them.
on the site?
You can, yeah. If you go to the site, you can contribute in any way, shape, or form. So
And that's a tax deductible
it is.
contribution.
Absolutely. Yep.
And don't feel sad. Don't feel bad about yourself if it's only $1 or $2 or
Absolutely.
$10
It all
or
adds up.
it all adds up.
It all adds up.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. $3. I can get a meal for a young person. So trust me, it all adds up. We have a young lady who I just met last year, and probably for the last 6-7 years, she donates $10 a month, and she just has it on auto pay. I had never met her, and she finally came to our event after 6 or 7 years of giving, and came to our event last year, and I had a chance to meet her. And she said, "Look, this is the least I can do." She's like, "I don't have a lot." She said, "But I love what you do, and if I can give a little bit." She sees how big of a difference it can make just by giving a little bit.
What a great thing too. And if you think about that in like terms of breaking it down,
Yeah.
$10 a month, that's like she's got to give up like 5 coffees.
That's it.
Like I'm just not going to get coffee at my local coffee shop.
That's it.
I'm not suggesting you don't support your local coffee.
Absolutely.
But, 5 whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you're a beer drinker like me, that's giving up 2 beers a month
it.
at the Modern Methods.
That's it.
Okay.
And if you think about it, you get 1,000 of those people. That's 10,000 a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get 10,000 of those people. That's 100,000 a month.
How many more worlds you could change?
That's it.
With that type of.
At the end of the day,
yeah.
When you really think about like what we have the ability to do, as a people and as a community, it's not about everybody giving everything. It's about everybody giving a little bit, which is what makes the huge difference.
Well, I like what you do. I like how part of what you do is how you're training the kids to interact and present themselves.
Absolutely.
Like that's such a big. When Deryck started Inspiring Minds, we've worked on multiple projects throughout the years. We
Yep.
go to some events and internships and stuff like that. And so I've been fortunate to see some of these young people, these young adults, blossom and whatnot. And I had the experience last year. We had an intern that came from Inspiring Minds for the summer, and I was telling him before the podcast that she came in. She's very smart. She's kind of I don't want to say an introvert. Now, I say this to her, and she was like, "Oh, that's because you don't really know me." And she's very presented herself very respectful. She worked good. She was great. By the end of the year or the end of the summer, she wrote us a spec script for a 30-second TV spot for a group that shines the light on senior elderly abuse, and it was a really well, I provided her the notes, and here we want some stats in it, and she wrote a really great script and we're hoping to produce.
That's awesome.
But she came in and presented herself very well. How important is that?
Yeah, I think it's huge.
You had said this too. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to say you had said like, "Hey Jim, some of these kids, it's not that they want to see." They need to know how the environment is the framework of the environment of a business environment is. And I'm like,
Fact.
Deryck, I don't know. I mean, I look around, it's like, we're like an art house over here, But you deal with other businesses all the time,
Absolutely.
so you know how to present. Like, how important is that to teach these kids?
Yeah, it's huge. So what I try to teach our kids is this: your level of success will be determined by how many hats you have in your closet. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of times when you look at programs like ours and when you look at any type of enrichment or when you're trying to help people, some people think we're trying to change our kids. And that's not what it's about. Like, it's not about changing people. It's about adding to them. So I don't need you to lose who you are. So I still need you, like with some of my boys, I need you to be able to wear your do-rag and turn it backwards and survive at home. But I also need you to be able to put on a hard hat and go have a conversation with the skilled trades people. I need you to be able to put on a bow tie and go talk to people who wear suits every day. But I need you to be able to put on T-shirts, I need you to learn different languages. So again, the more hats you have in your closet, the more successful you're going to be. So again, I need to add, to who you are. And I think, again, to me, that's what Inspiring Minds is about. Like when I look at our kids, to me, it's almost like a production line. So, where we grew up, it's, Still Valley. There's a lot of mills, and we had General Motors. And when you think about a car, right, coming down the line, it starts out as just the frame, right? And then when it gets to the next part of the line, they start adding the doors and the outside pieces, right? Then it gets to the next part and they put the paint on. Then the next part, they add the glass. Then the last piece, they start adding all the little details, right? Before it actually drives off the lot. I look at our kids in the same way. As they come through our program, we're adding value added every time. So they've come through us. They've come through our K-8 program. We add. They come to our high school program. We add. They get an internship with you. You add, right? They come to our gala and they got to speak in front of people. Add. They go to college. Add, right? Get their internship at NASA. Add. And then they call me talking about, I'm moving to London, right? So to me, that's the mindset and mentality in which it is. I'm not trying to change people. I'm trying to add to who they are and expose them to what they truly can be.
Well, I love that you just said, too, you're not losing a piece of yourself. Mm-hmm. You can still be who you are.
Absolutely.
And the translation in my brain, because we're in communication, is like it's how we communicate to one another is so important.
Very much so.
And how I communicate, my dad used to say this, hey, listen, you're going to school, you don't talk around your teachers the same way you might talk around your buddies.
Exactly.
And that's not a sense of like, sometimes people are like, well, I'm not going to be phony.
Exactly.
Has nothing to do with being phony.
Absolutely not.
You can still be, but you're not. So he would, what the heck was that? It was like, sound like there's no earthquakes in Ohio. We just had a huge bump in here. He would say, how you speak around, you're not going to talk to your mom the same way you talk to your buddies on the football field so
no doubt.
How we communicate is so important. I love that you're teaching these kids this, and something struck me as you're saying this, because you're so vested and you're so passionate with these kids. These children, they're children.
Yep.
Do you feel you feel a sense of connection with them? They become, my job was my kid before my kid.
No doubt.
Your football career,
no doubt.
They become a part. These are your kids.
They're mine.
These are your kids.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
They're mine.
You're so vested in
Even
them.
the ones we've had to remove from our program, they're mine.
Yeah.
We were just having a conversation, about one of my students. He's mine. Forever. And
Yeah.
I think that they know that going in. I haven't had all the nicest and kindest conversations with them. You know what I mean? They don't always like what I got to say to them. But that's because I tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. But at the end of the day, I've never given up on any of them. Have some walked away. Yeah. But it's funny how a couple of years later, they end up coming back. Kids.
And you probably welcome them too.
100%.
There's no
but they know that.
Yeah, right.
They know that, because between me and them, they know what happened, but the love will always be there, and we'll support them forever because we've committed. Once you come into our family, we've committed to you, and I think sometimes that we get this false perception that being disciplined is not love. If I don't discipline you and I let you get away with everything, I don't truly love you. You got a kid, right?
Oh, yeah.
If your kid walks out in the street and there's cars flying by you, you just go let him stand there.
Right. No. Right. No. He's going to know that's
Come
not
on.
yeah.
And you go let him know that that's not cool.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you love him.
Right.
At the end of the day, you don't want him to get hurt. You don't want him to go out in the street. So it's the same thing. I'm going to correct you, and I'm going to tell you when you're wrong because I love you. You know what I mean? And I think, our kids know that. And I also see, just like the person who jumped on me, when I got to ninth grade, I was playing ball.
Who was it?
His name was Steve Arnold, who's now the head football coach, at Harding.
Shout out Steve Arnold.
That was the first person to ever tell me I was worth something. You know what I'm saying? Like, that dude pushed me. And what was crazy was I used to hate him. I was actually ready to quit because I ain't never had a grown man talk to me like that before. So the reality was this. I felt like nothing I can do was enough. I would win the race, when we were running, and doing drills, but I didn't get there fast enough. I got there in 14 seconds. He's like, you need to get there in 13. I'm like, yeah, but you said I just had to be there by 15. The reality was he know I could have got there in 13. Mm-hmm. And what he's saying is, I see the potential in you. So finally, I had someone that was challenging me to do something positive. I was used to people challenging me to do negative stuff. Steal stuff, break in stuff, fight people, do stupid stuff. And for the first time, I had somebody challenging me to do something positive and saw more in me than I saw in myself. He actually cared about me, So that's the same mindset that I take, with our young people.
Well, Steve gave you some kind of, which I was thinking about this as you were saying about, your kid going out in the street or whatever. Yeah. Sometimes you have to let them, not that I'm going to let my kid go out in the street,
right,
but sometimes you have to let them, you give them the, hey, all right, so this is my son. Yeah. Hey, if you run in here with your socks on, the floors are clean, you're going to slip and fall. I don't want to, so there's no running in the kitchen on the tile.
Absolutely.
With your thing, okay? Dad, I'm not going to fall. And he's 6. He's already giving me this. Dad, I'm not going to fall.
Absolutely.
Okay. But we don't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to get hurt. That's why I'm telling you. It's not that I don't want you to have fun and run or whatever. This isn't the place for it.
Right.
So I tell him once, I'll tell him twice. Now I'm going to keep telling him.
Yeah.
But I'll tell him, hey, if you do fall and you get hurt, don't think you're going to get sympathy from me because I've already told you this is what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And that's this incident actually happened. He fell, he hurt, he got cried. And, after I picked him up and put him there, I said,
Absolutely.
Now what did I tell you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dad, I get it.
It's a lesson in that. They got to feel it.
Yeah.
People got to feel it, right?
Yeah.
That there's a repercussion for every decision that you make. You have choices, but whatever decision you make, you got to be willing to also deal with the repercussions that come with that.
How do you feel that your program, and you've touched on this a little bit, you've got multiple, I call them satellite locations. Mm-hmm. Side note, because you said Philly.
Yeah.
Were you in Philly? Is that where you? So I had a weird text like a couple months ago. I don't know, it was like 6 months ago.
Right.
My cousin Kate texted me.
Yes.
Was that in Philly?
So right outside of Philly, but yes.
Yeah.
So I was in Jersey, and I was right across the bridge.
Okay.
So I went to a wedding. My old RA from college, still my homeboy, I got married, and he's actually on the board for our Philadelphia chapter.
Awesome.
So he was helping me out there, and I'm at the wedding, and this young lady comes up to me and was like, "Where are you from?" And I told her where I was from, and she said, "Get out of here." She was like, I got family in Warren, Ohio. I said, what? Most people don't know Warren, Ohio.
Right.
I got to say
Youngstown, right?
Cleveland. I'm right between Youngstown, Cleveland, near Pittsburgh. And when she said Jim Fogarty, I said, man, get out of here. I said, that's my man. And I think I texted. She was like, nah, get out of here. I said, I'll text him right now.
Yeah.
And I text you. She was like, get out of here. We might even called you.
Yeah.
But small world.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, small world.
That's you're there for Philly. So you've got four locations now?
4 right now, and I'm working on Detroit, and I'm working on Raleigh, Durham. So those are hopefully.
So it could be 6 in the next before the end of the year.
Yeah, it could be. We're working on it.
What's the ultimate? What's the ultimate vision?
Yeah. So the ultimate vision is to definitely have a boarding school jumping, but also to be international.
Wow.
I want to see inspire minds. Everything
different cultures, different countries, different,
everywhere, everywhere. Because here's the thing. Imagine, right? Imagine being a young person, and imagine everywhere you go, right? No matter what part of life you're in, you have somebody that you can connect to. Like, you have a resource. And there's so many kids that just don't have that. So imagine if I go to college, and I decide to go to college over in Germany, and I can connect with people who I know care about me, right? And got the same morals and principles I do, Or imagine even locally, like if I live in Warren and then I go to school in Pittsburgh, and I know there's an Inspiring Minds chapter there. So I know there's a group of people there who want to help me, who can help me get internships, who's going to connect me in the city. Like, I can go and give my time to, and that's go sit there and support me through whatever it is. Like, that's the goal, is to develop relationships and resources to help our young people get to where they need to get to, just to let them know they got access, so.
I think, man, those are some lofty, awesome goals, but I think it's those kind of goals and aspirations that people, and specifically Inspiring Minds, allows people to see that it's not beyond your grasp.
Right.
Like, sometimes it may be.
Yeah.
Hey, you may not get to be international, but the fact that you're shooting for got you 6.
I have to. I can't tell my kids to think outside the box
and then not do
dream
yourself,
if I don't
right?
do it myself.
Right.
Your dreams should scare you. If they don't scare you, you ain't dreaming big enough. You know what I'm saying?
Dream bigger.
Come on. My man run a gym. If I don't fail on a squat, if you ain't never seen me fail on a squat, obviously I'm not trying hard enough. Right?
Yeah, I would agree. And just from an experiential standpoint, you have to take yourself to the ends to see for that growth.
Absolutely.
And even you can see it by watching people like you. I'm sitting here taking all of this in, and there's so many bells just ringing in my head about such a base level of truth and just a base level of truth and natural, like, law almost. Like, you're presenting and giving to these kids exactly what they need and exactly what all human beings. So, I don't see why something like this couldn't go international. Everybody's got different events and everybody's got different experiences, but, like, you're providing the base of what these kids need.
Absolutely, man.
And it's just love and opportunity. And everybody, we talk about business or just anything in life. It's like, it's all about who you know.
Yep.
And you're giving these people somebody to know, an organization like Inspiring Minds. It's really beautiful to listen to.
Yeah. A lot of people say our kids have changed, right? We hear that all the time. Kids have changed. And I've always said, like, I don't believe that. I believe the environment has changed.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
So people always jumping on kids like, all they do is text. All they do is play a video game. What kid do you know created an app?
Right.
They didn't create this stuff. They didn't create video games. Like, us old people did.
Right.
They didn't create the apps, right? We did. They didn't create social media. We did. You know what I mean? But they got to face the repercussions of it, right? They're the products of it.
Yeah.
So
that's the world that they were born into now. So, of course, they're going to immerse themselves in their own environment.
No different than what we did.
Right.
Right? So at the end of the day, what I feel Inspiring Minds does is it recreates the environment where I don't have to worry, where it's cool to be smart. It's cool to look at somebody and say, I love you. I care about you.
Right.
Like we were talking earlier. It's cool to say, hey, I disagree with you.
Yep.
But we don't have to have I don't have to disrespect you just because we don't agree. You like red, I like blue. You like left, I like right. You like this team, I like that team. You believe in that, I believe in this. That's cool. Tell me about it. Great. You know what I mean? So I think that it allows for that. And it also says I truly can be and do whatever it is I want to do. Like, I have access to this world, and I'm no different than anybody else. And I got a group of people behind me that's going to love me no matter what. That's actually, when I mess up, they going to love me through the situation, So I think to know that gives you a sense of self, and gives you a sense of pride, you know what I mean? And I think it helps you react and respond in a different way than when you were in survival mode, which is what you see a lot of people in.
Sure.
Which ain't the place to be.
No.
Right? You can't think straight.
I always tell, when I start talking about politics, and this will translate to how Inspiring Mind potentially will be one day in a international brand.
Yeah.
Because just because the kid didn't grow up in Warren or Northeast Ohio or the United States, or like people who are underserved
Yeah.
or underrepresented are underserved and underrepresented no matter the culture,
Facts.
no matter their sexual orientation, the
Right.
color of their skin,
Right.
their age, they're this, they're that. I always bring this up when we talked about it maybe earlier about the commonalities. We have to find our commonalities.
Very true.
If we don't have, I always go, it's simple. And we were talking about hydrating earlier. We're all like drinking water.
Yeah.
We have clean water. Every human being on the planet
Yes.
needs clean water and good source of food. But if you don't have that, that's your only focus is to find that clean water.
Yes.
You can't educate yourself. You can't do any of these other things that you need to do to propel yourself to society. You don't have the access to that. How far behind you are and how far behind we are
Yeah.
as a society, because one of those people who was focused on going to get clean drinking water at a well
Right.
every day
Yep.
may have been the person, may have the aptitude and the intellect to be one of those people to find the cure for cancer or whatever that thing is.
Yes.
They could, but they can't achieve it because they don't have clean water or they don't have access to healthcare or they don't have healthy food or they don't have a roof over their head.
Absolutely.
You're taking some of your students. I say students. I'm just going to say students because
Yeah.
you're teaching them. You're a
Yeah.
teacher. You're taking some of your students to Ghana.
Yep. Monday. Yep. Yep. We out of here in a couple of days.
This is amazing. And last year you went to El Salvador?
El Salvador last year.
And so I've been out of the country a few times, mostly to, enjoy the Caribbean and things of that nature.
Right.
But you drive through,
Yes.
like when you get to Jamaica, everyone's like, oh, yeah. You drive through some of the port or Mexico or
Absolutely.
the DR or
Yeah.
you drive some of the poorest. And, we have poverty here in this country. You go to some of those places, you're going to a place that has probably some of those places where people aren't getting clean drinking water.
Very true. Very true. They're going to see, they'll unfortunately have to see a lot of that, And I think that it's so important for our kids to experience that because I think witnessing people and witnessing a group of people who have less than you, especially when you already don't have anything, I think if that's not motivation and a sense of accountability of why you need to be successful, I don't know what else it is.
Well, and it changes your perspective too,
100%.
right? Like I look at myself sometimes, and of course, you've done the same thing. You talk
Yes.
about, like, I get down myself, I'm depressed. Like, why do I have this terrible? Why do I have this disease? Why do I have this?
Yeah.
But then you look at someone who doesn't have their arms and legs,
Absolutely.
or they have and it changes. You're like, oh well,
It does.
I might not have it as bad. And again, I like that you said it gives them a sense of accountability because then it's like, hey, you're going to better yourself.
Yes.
Then when you're giving back, you can help these people.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yes, and that's and at the end of the day, with our organization, that's what the end goal is. Because I had a coach that told me, one, never let anyone outwork you. Okay? You always be the first person there, the last person to leave. Number two, always stay humble. You're only one mistake away from being just like everybody else. 3, you're not going to have a lot of friends because when you stand up for something, you're always going to have opposition. And 4, never forget where you come from. I don't care how successful you become or who you think you are in the future, you always come back and you help somebody that was once just like you. So when we think about our mentality, whether it's consumerism, whether it's capitalism, whatever it is, right? To me, we should want to be better so we can do more and do better for other people. To me, that's what it's about. When we truly think about community and we think about our very existence, like we should be giving.
Long-term goals, not short-term goals.
Period.
Long sight, not short sight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And understand the importance of that, right? Like when you think of any business, when you want to grow your business, you can't grow your business alone. Right? We ain't made to be alone.
Right.
You can't grow your family alone, right? You need people. You need people you trust. You need people that you value. So it's the same thing. If we can begin to all figure out our connectivity and the value that we all have and are for each other and how we all affect each other, right? So imagine, like, it's like on a football team. Imagine if everybody was fast, right? Imagine if everybody was strong. Imagine if everybody had great grades. Like, what an amazing team, like, we would have, right? Imagine if we were all cohesive and loved each other. So the same thing. Imagine if our entire community, like, didn't have to worry, like you said, didn't have to worry about where we're getting our next meal from, didn't have to worry about safety, fresh water, all the things that nobody should have to worry about. Because the reality is there's enough resources to truly take care of everybody.
Amen.
Okay? There are.
Yep.
And that's a whole another political conversation.
Right.
Right? But if we can get more people in powerful places that feel that way, I think we would begin to see change.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing change right now with what you're doing and inspiring minds.
Yeah.
And you know, shining light on other groups out there like yours. You know, if you're out there listening, Deryck brought up a great point. You know, here's a lady you never met, and hey, maybe you can't do $10. Maybe it's $1.
Yep.
But you get 10,000 people giving you $1 once a month out of their thing. There's other, you know, man, how we could change the world
Absolutely.
together as a community. I love that you say connectivity. I love that you brought up Steve Arnold. I wrote his name down because I'm thinking, like, that's another person I need to have on the podcast. Yeah.
You do, because he's been changing lives forever.
Yeah.
That dude changed my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was my Superman. Like, I call him Pops now. You know what I mean? Straight up.
Does he think that he's like, hey, I'm not that old? Does he give you the...
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Nah. When I always see him and he was like, "What's up, son?" You know. I learned a lot from him, man, and I watched how he walked. I watched how he handled certain situations. You know, I watched him in the good times, and again, when I truly think of leadership, to me, some of the greatest leaders are the most transparent leaders. They don't just show you how great they are and when they win. They also show you how they react and how they respond when they lose and when they fail and when they mess up, you know?
Yeah.
So just to watch how he's always stayed true to who he is, no matter who he was around and no matter what situation he was going through, like, that's what I've always admired about him.
You said something, I don't know if you said this. Where did I get this from? I knew we were meeting up today and going to talk. And this, I don't know if you said this or somebody quoted you this. Failure is when you give up.
Facts.
So I texted my wife this today. Here was the text thread. Please find the remote for the TV for later. Love you. And she texted me back, I'm looking for it, but I'm unable to find it. And I used your quote on her. I said, failure is when is when you give up.
Don't have your wife mad at me.
No, listen, she texted me back, right back at you.
Ooh.
So you got it. This is a communal sense on a wire thing too. It takes a village, right?
It does.
It takes people to hold you accountable and to challenge you.
It does.
And to say, hey,
it does.
I'm going to do it. You're going to do it. We're going to do it together.
Absolutely.
Like, we're going to change the world together because we can only do it together.
That's it.
Different political spectrums, different experiences, different sexual orientations, different ideologies, different gods.
Different everything.
Everybody who believes in a different God or believes in a different sexual orientation they still need to have clean water.
Absolutely.
They still don't want their loved ones to get killed.
Absolutely.
They still don't want to have, those are the common out. I love that you bring these things up. It makes me want to be a better person.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to help others be better people.
I love that. I also feel this, to that point. I think that there was a time when in society where we wanted everybody to be the same. And I think, to me, when you think of the fights, whether they're politically, whether they're economically, right? It's because I want you to feel how I feel, act how I act, believe what I believe, look how I look, do what I do. So I think if we can begin to value the differences, we have to start to value them. I think we're getting to a point where we're starting to, and I'm using hand quotes, accept them. Mm-hmm. But the true change will begin when we value them. Or I can sit down with someone who I've never met before and say, tell me about yourself, because you don't look like me. You didn't go to my school. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you had a life like I did. I played football, you played baseball, right? So tell me, like, what was it like? And celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that you are different.
Yeah.
You know, and I respect and love that about you. You know, like when we get to that point,
Yeah.
that's when I feel we'll begin to see true change, because we'll begin to respect everybody and allow people to be exactly who they want to be, and honestly feel that they add value to this world.
You ever get those people that are like, oh, Deryck, I get this. Oh, Deryck, or oh, Jim. Like, dude, you're living in a dream world, man.
Yeah.
You're trying to, like, you think we're striving towards a utopian society? Like,
Absolutely.
what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what we're...
Yeah.
How do you deal with those type of people?
So I'm a firm believer, man, that like we got to be walking and living examples of what we want to see. You know what I mean? So at the same time, those same people, I can appreciate that, right? I think that when I look at my life, if I would have believed half the stuff that people said about me, or half the stuff that people said I wasn't going to be able to accomplish or do, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So for me, I just want to be a walking and living example. And I think that when we walk in that, you know, we speak it, you know, we got to stay consistent and true, you know, to what it is that we believe.
Zach Byler can't tell people to get in shape and live healthy if he is 100 pounds overweight and not, right?
Yeah, I think you're able to. The phrase that comes to my mind is you want to let your life speak, and not let your mouth speak. So like that's what I think about, you know. And everybody struggles. So like I'm no different than my clients. Like I struggle with the same motivation things, you know. And I'm on the hills and I'm in the valleys, but part of my life is being in the valleys and like how I respond to those.
Yep.
And the big thing that I keep hearing you talk about, Deryck, is the responses that you took to all of the situations that you had in your life. It was like good response after good response after good response. And then look where you're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when people ask how, like, what's so different, I always tell them, like, man, I'd be lying to you if I sat here and said I ain't never want to give up, that I ain't never want to quit, that I don't have bad days. Like, I ain't gonna sit here in front. That's not true. I done wanted to give up before. I done got to a point where I'm like, financially, I can't keep investing in this. And I don't know if this is gonna work, and going through tough times. The only difference is I ain't give up. That's it. Like when we think about like what we've accomplished, all that was the moment, like I explained to you earlier, it's the moment where desire met opportunity. So we can't give up. You know what I mean? We got to keep going, because you just never know when that time is going to come. So
a lot of times you're in that situation, and you know, I'm almost 20 years in business, and same thing. You're like, oh man, like I go through it on the daily, on the regular, and there's I can remember the specific times, probably a half dozen of them, where it was like this thing's probably over with, you know. And right around the corner, had I given up at that moment, that thing that was right around the corner waiting for me to present itself wouldn't have been there, because I would have folded.
Yeah.
I love that you say that. And here's the other thing. If you do fold it in and pack it up, you'll always wonder.
Yep.
Right? Like, what could have this been, or what could have that been? Not to say, listen, we're gonna fail sometimes, right? I fail as a parent at least once a day.
Facts.
My son thinks I'm the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Your daughter probably thinks you're the greatest thing in the world. She's going to. Your students think you're the greatest thing in the world. I fail them. I fail my son. I remember one time my wife and I, it's funny because when we argue about things, they're related to making our son
Absolutely.
raising him. We want to make him safe and all that stuff. So one time we got in this argument or whatever, and I said to her, I don't remember specifically what it was, but it was something that he didn't do well or whatever it was. I don't mean do well, like we put pressure on him, but whatever happened. I said, well, we failed him. We didn't prepare him for that, but now we know. Well, we have to own that. We have to say it. And you're going to fail. I fail multiple times a day. You know, hopefully there's small failures. I like, Zach, how you pointed out, it's like how you, Deryck, in your life, how you reacted to it. What was your reaction to that failure?
Absolutely.
You know, it's okay to lick your wounds for a second, but then you got to keep on keeping on. Go ahead.
I wrote a sentence like when you were talking about your kids, and one point that you said is like you want to make it cool for them to say like I love you.
Absolutely.
And for me, you know, being able to get to that point to be vulnerable enough to understand that, you know, and I had a fine childhood or whatever. So like I was privileged in that way, but like we still all grow up with this idea as a man that it's not okay to love somebody and express that love.
Absolutely.
So, and I can only imagine how much different that is when you've never, like if I think about your upbringing, like one of the things that you said is you were angry. You felt like there was no love, and I'm kind of ad-libbing here too. No help, no guidance, no chance, no opportunity. And like the kids that you're serving. So when somebody asks me about Inspiring Minds, I've always said like, oh yeah, it's a great organization. ...
Right.
You know, but now like sitting here listening to you talk, it's like the kids that you are serving are they're not just the underserved.
Right.
They're the underloved. They're the undercared for. The underconsidered. The understood up for. The underguided. And I just made up a word. The undertruthed. Because like you've given them. You're giving them those moments. You said you had this moment when you were on the field looking at Peyton Manning. And looking at Tom Brady. Like that's a moment. But that's a huge moment.
Right.
And we're talking about these people that don't have water. How about the moment that somebody has clean water for the first time?
Exactly.
Or the moment like Deryck Toles says to somebody who doesn't have like a father figure in his life, says, I love you. And you know, you're one of mine. And and you can go off and not listen to me and we can have our fight. But yet I'll still be there in the end when you come back to me.
Absolutely.
You know, I can't help but like just think about like my faith and just, I mean, that is one of the stories. I mean, that's the story of the prodigal son. And just how beautiful that is. But the sentence that I wrote down is it seems like you guys are so successful in this because you've created a culture of handling and responding with top-notch integrity and responsibility and ownership of everybody's events. Everybody has these different events. And you're teaching these kids how to handle each and every one of those consistently with integrity. You have a culture of it. That's why you have this girl that's calling you at 2 a.m. You're picking up the phone at 2 a.m.
Absolutely.
And then she's getting job offer after job offer.
Absolutely.
It's because you've discipled her basically in a way to respond to her life.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Nah, you're right, man. I mean, it's definitely a labor of love, you know, and it's from top down. When I think about even my position within the organization and how my responsibilities have shifted, you know, I went from, you know, the guy who was working, you know, who would meet up with 4 kids at McDonald's to now servicing, you know, 4 chapters, you know, and a team of people and volunteers and events with 700-800 people in them. So I literally have went from loving on my kids every day to now loving on my people who I need to love on my kids. And I think it starts from the top down and from left to right, that the culture has to be consistent in everything that we do, and everybody that comes into the organization truly has to understand why we're there.
Deryck Toles, Inspiring Minds Executive Director. Parting words for the prodders out there in Prodcast universe.
Final words are,
I don't want you to think it's final because I see the steam coming out of your ears. Like I always say this to others. I want you to come back. You have to come back because we talked about stuff beforehand that I think we could get into. We could this could be a 3-hour thing, but for brevity's sake, you know, please come back again.
I'll be here.
What is the?
I'll be here.
So it's not the final words, I guess.
If it's not the final words, then I would just say it's not over. You know, I think this is just the beginning, and I feel like everybody needs to connect to their why. When you think about what I do, think about removing all the material things that we might like think about every day. take away the money, take away the clothes, the cars, and everything else. And think about when you look in the mirror every day and you ask yourself, why do I do what I do? And I think when we can strip all that away and get to our why, I think it would bring us all to tears. When you think about your true why, and that's why I do what I do. And I think we all need to connect to our why. Whether it's doing something like Inspiring Minds, yeah, absolutely, your purpose, yeah. Whether it's the work that you do, whether it's the work that you do, you know, and when you truly think about why you do it, you're right, that is what gives you your purpose every day.
Purpose.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Yep, and that's why I do what I do. So you got to hear a little bit about me, the ups, the downs, and everything. But at the end of the day, everything I do is connected to my why.
Please continue to keep doing what you're doing because you're doing amazing work. I brought this up. What did I do with it? What did I do with that thing? I brought this. I wanted to not remind, but I found this the other day. I want to give this to you. This is Deryck Toles, probably, I don't know, man, 10 years ago with some dreads.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
I made a copy, but this is the actual clipping.
Yeah.
So Deryck was recognized by the Mahoning Valley Young Professionals as one of the top. This was when it was still 40 under 40.
Yeah.
And then he was selected as an MVP, one of the top for Inspiring Minds. And I want to say that was about 10 years ago. I don't know if it's dated or not on the clipping part of it, but that's actually from the Business Journal.
Yeah. This is way back in the day.
Yeah,
2007.
2007.
October 2007.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So like a dozen or so years ago.
Man, that's crazy.
I'm sure Judy has that clipping.
That's crazy.
But that's for you. I found that the other day when I was thinking about it. Look at your beautiful hair, man.
Look at that. Can you believe that?
Yeah. And that was 10 years ago. And look at, you're still doing it. Like, this wasn't a flash in the pan thing. In another 10 years, I'm so excited about the things that you will be doing then, because it'll be just that much greater and that much more helpful and insightful for these kids to have someone like you to look up to and to care about them. And I think it's beautiful. I want to say this. I want to give you, if I can part some wisdom, if there is any. I don't know if I have any. I said this to a client one time. I've said this to other people when they say, you know, we talk about like, I hope and pray if this is something that you want, because someone like yourself should have kids, because those kids can change the world. Like, I look at my son, and everybody's kids is the best, right?
Yeah.
Their kid's the best, you know. Like, but I look at my son and I'm like, and he's special. He's special to me, whether he's special. But I imprint that on him, and I tell him he's very sensitive and he's very intelligent.
Yeah.
And I say, listen, sometimes it's going to be harder for you because of your awareness.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be harder for you maybe because who your parents are and how they expect things out of you and how, you know, whatever. But you're going to do amazing things someday. I so pray that you have children, because they will do amazing things. I know you have children right now in Inspiring Minds. Allow yourself the time, because I know you're so vested, man. Allow you the you time. If it's something that you desire, to seek that special person out that you can eventually, if it's in the cards, and that's, again, something that not everybody wants it. Not everybody needs it.
Right.
I didn't think I wanted it or needed it myself. It's been the blessing of my life to try to help bless and mold this. He's improving me as a person.
I can imagine.
I so would love to meet your kids someday, because they how you're doing it. Like, we can pass the worst of ourselves on to them too.
Yeah.
But if we aim to pass the best, and which I know with 1,000% with every breath that I take, that's what you would be doing. Well, that kid would be, or kids, amazing, man. Amazing. But allow yourself the time to do that, because you're like me, where you're so deep invested into your work that sometimes that's the reason why you pick up that phone at 2:00 in the morning.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Make sure you save something for you, man. so that
I appreciate that advice.
yeah, I love you, dude. I
love you too,
man,
bro.
I love you, man. I'm so happy that you came on today. I appreciate you. Please give my best to Judy. I love her as well, and your mother as well.
I will. They're going to Africa with us on Monday.
Are they?
Yep.
I can't wait to see the pictures. That's a trip I've always wanted to take.
Yeah.
I can only say I've met a few people from Africa, and they're all cool.
This won't be our last, so you have to come one day with us.
I would love to,
connects, but I want to go every year with our senior. We're taking our seniors. So.
I would absolutely love to.
That's 2 commitments now, Jim.
Yeah. Well, you know why too? I want my son to be worldly as well. Like, I didn't travel until I got to be planes and stuff, but like I didn't travel until I got to be older to see other parts of the world or even other parts of the country beyond what driving time.
Yep.
And so I want him to see that.
Yep.
You know, I tell him these things. I tell him about, Dad, I don't want to go to school. Hey, you're lucky you're able to go to school.
Right.
There's a little girl on the other side of the world that has to wake up every morning and walk in her bare feet on a dirt road to get a bucket of water that's dirty.
Absolutely.
So she can cook food for herself and her family.
Absolutely.
And
isn't allowed to read.
And isn't allowed because she has to do that. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, it's real.
Man, God bless you. I'm so and Zach, thank you for coming today. This was a perfect integrated group here. We have to do this again. Inspiring Minds is the perfect name because I feel I'm leaving here and I'm inspired today.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Yep. Nice to meet you, Zach.
Nice to meet you too.
Yep.
Well, again.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Prodders out there in Podcast Universe, I implore you, please check out iamyouth.org and see all the great things that Deryck is doing. And until the next time, prod on and stay electrified.